Hey everyone, welcome to Ball Down South Sports Wave. This is Brad, and I have John with me today. And today we're going to cover a couple of our favorite segments that we like to do. We're going to touch on a segment we like to call Pick Six, and we're also going to do a segment that we like to call No Fly Zone. These are some defensive stuff, and they're kind of fun for us. Hey John, how you doing?
How you doing, man?
You ready for this?
Yes, sir. I'm ready. Let's get it.
All right, so we'll start out with our pick six segment, and this time with our pick six, we're gonna discuss our through week three, of course, across the country. Each one of us gonna kind of go over our top six QBs so far across the country. There's some awful good ones to pick from. John, who you gonna put at number one?
I'm gonna have to go C.J. Stroud, Ohio State. He's putting up some ridiculous numbers. And he's a popular choice to be a first round pick, if not the top overall pick. And I just think he makes a lot of plays look too easy, really, at times. And he's humming right now, and they get their first big test this weekend against Wisconsin, so we'll see how that works out. But I got C.J. Stroud first. I got Bryce Young coming in second. He's not really had, the season that everybody has thought he would have, but he's made plays to win. He made the game-winning drive against Texas, and he does things just to win the game for his team, and that's what I love about Bryce Young. And there's not a better quarterback than Bryce Young, to be honest. I mean, he won the Heisman last year, and he doesn't have the top two receivers that he had a year ago, but you know how Saban is. He'll have guys be stepping up by the end of the year.
All right, so there's your number one and your number two.
Number three,
who do you have at three?
I think I'm going to go with Caleb Williams. He's having a really fun season out in USC. 4, I'm going to go with Stetson Bennett. He's having an amazing year so far. He's not having to do a lot. He's just a game manager, but he does it in a way that helps his team win games, and that's what I love about Stetson. And I'm going to go with him. Is that number 4?
Yeah, that's number 4. So you got 5.
5. I'm going to go with Michael Penix Jr. I'm going to base it off last week. He's been injured.
He's definitely having a pretty stellar season so far.
He is, and nobody expected him to beat, Michigan State. I did. I picked him to win.
Yeah, you did last week. I'll have to give you credit on that one.
But the biggest thing about Penix, can he stay healthy? He in his first 4 years in Indiana, I think he tore his ACL twice. He has to stay healthy, and if he does, this could be a really good draft pick for somebody next year in the draft. Moving forward, number 6. All right, I'm going to go with the guy that is tearing things up. That's Drake May from North Carolina. He leads the nation in passing yards and touchdowns. He can move the chains of his legs. I think, he's a sleeper for a Heisman choice. And I think I'm gonna stick. It was between Drake May and I guess Jaden Daniels this week at 6, because Jaden Daniels had a really good game against Mississippi State.
Well, so Drake May's got a big game this week coming up.
Yeah, plays Notre Dame, yes sir.
Yeah, they play Notre Dame at their house, and they're 3-0. North Carolina is, so he's got a big game this week coming up.
And if they win that, and he does puts the stats up that he did, against a top tier opponent, even though Notre Dame's struggling, he's got to get a little hype for being one of the top quarterbacks. He's even in that running right now. But
Oh yeah.
you beat a team like Notre Dame and you start talking about this kid being maybe one of the better quarterbacks in the country.
So, yeah, I mean, I agree with all that. My list is very similar, actually. But I had C.J. Stroud at number one. I think he's tied. Him and Drake May are tied for the lead in touchdown passes. His passer rating so far is 94.6. I mean, he just is having a stellar season so far. They did play Notre Dame the first game of the season, so he's not been playing Cupcake City, the whole time. This week they get Wisconsin at home. Wisconsin is coming off of a loss a couple of weeks ago now, to Washington State. It was kind of a bad loss for them. But I expect C.J. Stroud to go and still play his game and be the quarterback that he is this week. I'm going to go with Caleb Williams at number two. USC offensively, they have a lot of weapons, and Caleb Williams has a lot of weapons. He's got a passer rating of 93.1 through 3 games so far. I'm not exactly sure, but that's one of the top in the country. And then I'm going to mix it up for my number 3. I'm going to go Stetson Bennett. I'm going to go Stetson Bennett number 3. Stetson Bennett has not played in the fourth quarter yet. He's not had one single snap in the fourth quarter.
That's pretty an amazing stat, ain't it?
Yeah. I mean, so his stats, he's got a 92.9 passer rating so far. He's got 952 yards. He only has 5 TDs compared to like Stroud has 11, Caleb Williams has 8, Bryce Young has 9. He only has 5 TDs. He has no picks, but he's only played 3 quarters in each game. So, he's not even getting to play full games yet. So I'm going to give Stetson Bennett my number 3 and go with Bryce Young as my number 4. Bryce doesn't quite have the yards that some of the others do, that my top 3 do. He does have 9 TDs, just 2 interceptions, and he's got an 87 passer rating so far. And he is the Heisman Trophy winner from last year. So, you have to give him his props. He is going to be one of the top quarterbacks in the country throughout the entire year. So, I'll go with him as my number 4. My number 5, this is where I'm going to throw somebody in that you didn't have on your list. I'm going to throw in Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker has, I think, 844 yards passing, has a passer rating of 86.3. He's thrown no picks, 6 TDs so far. And Hendon Hooker is running, and he did last year as well, a really high-powered offense. And I feel like you got to give Hendon Hooker a little bit of credit. So I've got him as 5. And then my 6 is the same as your 6. I had Drake May from North Carolina. He has the yards. He's co-leader with touchdown passes. He's only threw 1 interception this year so far. He's got a passer rating of 89.5. And again, he's playing Notre Dame this week at home. It'll be interesting to see what kind of game he can have against Notre Dame, don't you think?
Mm-hmm. I do.
Yeah. So those are my 6 for our pick 6 top QBs through week 3 so far. So we're going to go on to our next segment. Our next segment I like to call No Fly Zone. So we're going to discuss a few topics and we're going to tell you if we think it should fly or if it shouldn't fly. No fly. So our first topic is going to be Deion Sanders. Prime time has kind of been a hot topic the last few days. I've heard him mentioned with the Auburn job, and I heard this on the Paul Feinbaum show. They done an interview, and a couple of people got on there and was kind of talking about this. So my question to you is does Deion Sanders take a top job and leave Jackson State?
Right now, no. I still think he's learning how to build Jackson State, but maybe possibly later on, yes. Deion's I think he's the only person to play in both the Super Bowl and the World Series. When he played in an NFL game and he suited up for a major league game on the same day. Ain't that crazy?
Yep.
In two different cities.
Yeah, and, I mean, you can't take away Deion's accomplishments, that's for sure.
No, and there's been a lot of talk Deion Sanders to Arizona State. No, that would be something to behold. The thing about Deion that would get Deion there, fans, the school, media, excitement, the support. He's not known as Neon Deion in primetime for nothing. Now he what is it?
Coach Prime.
He likes to be called Coach Prime.
They call him Coach Prime.
Coach Prime, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think he can be a successful coach somewhere. But I just don't think that he should now. He's 18-5 at Jackson State. And he's doing really good, and he's 3-0 this year. So I think there's a chance for him to move up in the rankings to find a better job. But I think he likes this HBCU school.
I think he does too, and I think he's building something there.
And he's trying to, get his brand out there and get them, the players to mesh together. And I think he does a good job with that, with what he does at Jackson State. And, could you imagine though, rolling up in a place like Auburn, say, or Arizona State and, getting these 5-star players? And, that would be a problem for college football.
Yeah. So you think this season, you think it's a no-fly?
It's a no-fly. No, I just don't think he's gonna move right this moment. No.
Well,
but he has been interviewed for a couple jobs, and but he's turned them down. And
well, here's my thing with Deion. Deion likes the lights. You know what I mean? He likes the prime time.
That's Deion.
Now, Auburn is interesting. If the Auburn job opens, which I fully expect it will,
even Georgia Tech's interesting, to be honest.
If Auburn really goes after Deion, it would be an interesting job for him, I think. And I don't know if he will take it or not, but Auburn's a big football school, and they have a great tradition. They've got several coaches who have won national titles there over the years, different coaches who've won national titles there. They have the pedigree that I think primetime Deion Sanders would like. Now, there is a school, of course, Mike Norvell's started out a lot better this year and seems to be on better grounds right now.
FSU, yeah.
But if Florida State job was to open, I think Deion would go there.
I think he would. He went to Florida State,
Yeah.
The brand's there, he played under Bobby Bowden. He would have it really good at Florida State. But right now, like you said, I just don't see him just jumping ship and just heading to big time school when he's got it rolling right now at Jackson State. I think he didn't he win a champion? Was it a champion? He was close to a championship, I believe, last year.
Yeah, I think they made it to the championship game. I'm not real sure. I can't
I think
remember.
they lost, yeah, but he's got them competing, and he's pulling some guys with this NIL stuff.
He is.
These 5-star guys, and it's working apparently. And somebody asked him during the off season if he wanted to play Alabama, and he said not right now. He said we don't have the guys up front to meet around with Alabama, to beat Alabama.
Yeah.
And I think, he's trying to build something at Jackson State, and I think he's doing a wonderful job there.
He is building something at Jackson State, and I think that he's taking pride in that too.
He is, and he loves his players. I watch the little clips here and there and in the locker room. And he'll always say, turn up my music, my theme song. And they'll play his theme song in the locker room, and all the players jump up and down, and they jump on prime, and it's like a big deal to have a former NFL star as your head coach.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right, so for right now we're both going to say no fly on this one. Our next topic's going to be one of the big games this week. Florida goes to Tennessee. And the question on this topic is, does Florida challenge this week? Are they ready to challenge Tennessee, do you think? I know that Florida's kind of had their number lately, but I think the tide has changed in that. It's at Tennessee.
It's going to be a raucous crowd. Game days there. There's just a lot going on in Knoxville this weekend, and I just don't think Florida has the offense to stay pace with Tennessee. Florida's defense has done the whole bend but don't break, and as bad as it's been, they've been able to do some really good things. Like in the Kentucky loss. You can't blame all of that on Richardson. Some of it was the offensive line. Some of it was, they didn't do really good throwing the ball. And Kentucky had a game plan. Kentucky went in there and they figured out how to stop Richardson. And I wouldn't put the blame on all him. Defense has been bad too at times. Last week South Florida ran up and down the field on them. Because their depth's a big issue.
Run game. It was the run game.
It was the run game. Yeah, they're a pretty good pass defense team, but they're going up against a better passing team this week in Tennessee. Hooker. I think Tillman. I don't know the status on Tillman. I looked earlier today that Tillman might not play Saturday, so there'll have to be other guys step up. They got Jalen Hyatt. They got McCoy, the transfer from USC. So I don't think Florida will win this, but I will say this. This will be a close game. And you know why?
So you think they'll at least give them a challenge?
You know why this will be a close game? Because it's a rivalry game.
It is a rivalry game.
And you can throw records out when Florida and Tennessee play.
And Florida has some really good backs.
They do. The biggest thing with Florida's the defense, it's the worst in the SEC at third downs. The run defense, they just got absolutely hammered by USF last week.
Yeah, they did.
And they didn't even have enough pass rush, and that quarterback was just doing whatever he wanted to do. And they're playing a better quarterback this week in Hendon Hooker. And he's yet to throw an interception too.
Right.
So, they're not going to be able to keep up offensively, and they ain't going to be able to keep up defensively. But
so does Florida try the ground and pound?
I think they do because they got a really good run game.
Yeah.
And they got the kid from the ETN kid. He's a really good football
Hey,
player.
he looked special against Kentucky.
He did, and he's going to get better as it goes.
He's just a
Um,
freshman.
Tennessee's offensive line has been really good. The running game has been good. Um, Tennessee's biggest weakness, I think, is in their secondary. Their front four is pretty good. But Pitt tried to win the game through the air, and it didn't work. But you got to realize Keaton Slovis got hurt in that game, which it changed quite a bit when he went out. So, but I still think Tennessee has some depth issues in the secondary too, especially on defense like Florida. But I think Tennessee has more talent overall than what Florida's got, and I just don't think it's going to fly this weekend.
Yeah, my thing is Tennessee has more offensive talent in the passing game than Florida does. So
Yeah,
both of them have a defense that is, acceptable to that. But I just feel like Tennessee is going to probably. I think they're favored by about 9.5 or 10 in this game.
it's something like that. Yeah.
And I'm actually thinking that they probably cover that is what I think. So I'm going to say no fly on this one as well. We'll see. It should be a fun game to watch.
It should be. Yeah, I'm excited about watching this one.
All right. So our next topic that we're going to discuss on the no fly zone is going to be Oklahoma. And this one, they're 3 games into a new regime in Oklahoma. They have a new quarterback, transfer from UCF, and his name is Dylan Gabriel. But they have basically 3 games into a completely new regime, and they're looking pretty strong.
They are. Their defenses look really good.
Are they? Are you going to buy them as a college football playoff contender after 3 games?
I do. I think their defense is better than there was last year. They've just allowed 6 scoring drives total and 10 points per game. They're 4th in the country in sacks and 11th in yards per play allowed. And this front 7 gets after you. I watched last week against Nebraska. They averaged, I think, 7.7 yards per play against Nebraska, which that's not saying much because Nebraska's not really good. But that's what you do against teams that's not really good. You take care of business. And Jeff Lebby has done a really good job. He's kept it low yet so far in the playbook. I don't think he's had to open it up yet a lot. But this weekend I think they'll get a little bit of a test. They play Kansas State. Even though Kansas State lost to Lane, it's still one of those games you got to watch. But I think, there's a good opportunity for this to happen. And what's funny is they could be on a collision course with former coach Lincoln Riley.
It could happen.
That's what I'm saying. And it's nice to think about and see, maybe them playing against each other. Caleb Williams going up against his old team. But I think this Oklahoma team's really good. They got a real good defense. The offense is humming under Dylan Gabriel and company, and they got some solid running backs. Their wide receivers are pretty good. So this is a fun team to watch, especially nobody thought that Venables would be able to do what he's done so far. They thought they would struggle a little bit, but they've not missed a beat in the first
defense is what is surprising me that they're playing. And I know
the defense is playing
I
tremendous.
know that Venables, that's what he's known for is his defense. I mean, that's what
he's always been known for his defense, yeah.
But, Oklahoma's given up quite a bit of yards and points and stuff over the years with Lincoln Riley. And I just thought it might take a little bit more time for him to get his defense where he wants it to be. But so far, they look really strong. So, on this one, I'm going to have to say fly on this one. So is that what you're saying, too, that they are a college football playoff contender?
Yeah, I do. I think it's going to fly.
Yeah, I mean, we're just 3 games in, and we got a whole lot of the season left to play, so we'll have to see what happens in the Big 12. But as of right now, I think they are a college football playoff contender. So then our last topic on the no-fly zone. This week there's been a little bit of discussion over Michigan's schedule. They really haven't played much of anybody to challenge them so far. They're averaging the most points in the country. I think it's like 55.3 points a game or something is what they're averaging. Chris Fowler, I think it was yesterday or maybe early today, was talking about how weak their schedule was and that Michigan needs to schedule better out-of-conference opponents. What do you think about that? What do you think about their schedule?
They opened the year against Colorado State, then they played Hawaii, and this week they play Connecticut.
Right.
So they're playing probably the most easy schedule in the last 100 years in Michigan football. I read a stat today that's pretty impressive. It says the first time since '64 that Michigan's schedule didn't include a contest against at least one Power 5 team or Notre Dame. And that included, against Army and Navy.
Right.
So yeah, there's a case to be made that this is a cakewalk schedule. So far they're playing the way they should. They're tied, I think, with Minnesota for the largest average margin of victories, 45 points among Power 5 schools. I don't know if this is a no-fly or a fly. I don't think it's a no-fly, though. I think it's a no-fly. So I just think Michigan's schedule is just really bad.
Hawaii and UConn are probably 2 of the lowest Division I teams in the country, right?
Yeah, they are. And, as a fan base, you gotta understand, a lot of people want to watch games against Notre Dame. Even a team like Navy would be a good non-conference game. And you're just going to these games and they're cupcake games and you're going to win. And at the end of the day, it's just a bad schedule. It
is. So. I agree with you. Kentucky schedules 3 games, their non-conference, against lower tier competition, but they usually schedule some MAC schools and, some non-power 5s that out of the group of 5, that are decent teams when they schedule. Scheduling Hawaii and UConn, when, they've been down for several years, both of them, that's even lower tier. You know what I mean? Like you could
actually, I misspoke. They played Connecticut this past weekend. They played Maryland this weekend.
Yeah. So this game.
Yeah, I got confused on that. I don't know why I said Connecticut. I guess I was just thinking
they played Connecticut last week.
The 3 cupcakes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they are playing Maryland this weekend. And
listen to the schedule. I just want to reiterate this. They play Maryland at home. This is this week. Then they go to Iowa, which has been a bugaboo for Michigan in the past at times. But Iowa's not on the level that everybody thinks this year because of their offense. Then they play at Indiana, and then they play Penn State. So Michigan and then they play, I think, they have a bye week, and then they play Michigan State. But up until Penn State, they really don't play a team with a pulse.
Well,
And I don't think really strength of schedule matters.
I think Maryland, you talking about up to Penn State, I think Maryland's probably the best team out of that bunch.
It is. Maryland is. You know, and you got to think, Michigan's played some really good non-conference games. They played Washington, I think, once. Notre Dame, I think, twice. Florida and Cincinnati, UCF, Oregon State, Colorado, which that was a big rivalry back in the day when they had Cordell Stewart, back in the 90s.
Right.
And, they played some hard teams, but just basing it on this year and the schedule, I think it was to ensure, I was reading something earlier this before fall camp, that they wanted them to have a certain amount of they wanted 7 home games. And there's nothing wrong with that, but just schedule better opponents to get better with, because you're not going to get better beating up on Hawaii and Colorado State. Let's just be real, and that's
so
no knock
far
back to
across the country. Nobody really knows what Michigan really has because they haven't had any challenge whatsoever. So,
well, you could say the same thing about Georgia. They haven't had any competition.
But now Georgia did play Oregon.
But Georgia's on a different level too, though. Yeah, they played Oregon, and Oregon's gotten better. Does that not show you something? I was telling somebody today, does that not tell you Oregon has gotten so much better and Georgia absolutely bombarded them in week 1? Them. Don't that show you that Georgia might be the best team in the country and they might be better than they was last year?
Which is a scary thought.
Which is a big scary thought. And it's a scary thought for college football.
Because Georgia was really, really good last year.
And the Oregon game, not to get off topic with the Michigan thing, but during the Oregon game, they was they pinpointed each and every drive. They just made it look so easy. Even last week against South Carolina. South Carolina was behind the 8 ball before the game even started. And, I don't know who's going to be able to challenge Georgia. I think it's going to come down to what defense can limit the big plays from Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers and that wide receiver group. Because
if you're talking about schedules and you're looking, Georgia's played Oregon and South Carolina. Okay, that's 2 Power 5 conference schools.
But they've been blowouts.
And Michigan has been playing nobody really.
Cupcake.
Yeah. So.
You want a cupcake?
Michigan's schedule is very, very, very easy, and they probably should schedule better teams, at least one game a better team. We'll see what happens this week with Maryland. I guess
Maryland might be a bigger test, but
I guess that is their one game, I guess. They do have Tua's little brother as their quarterback.
He's not really a bad quarterback either. He's a really nice, solid player.
I can't think of what his name is.
I think it's
something similar.
Tungavaloa.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't pronounce the last name.
I can't say his name, to be honest, either. It kind of tongue ties you.
Yeah. But we'll see this week when they play Maryland. They are a little bit better team. I think Michigan's still favored about 17, aren't they?
Yeah, I think it's a 17-point favorite. 16.
16.
The over and under is 64, so they're expecting a lot of points.
So far through 3 games, their schedule's been really weak. I'm going to have to say, I'm with them scheduling a little tougher. We'll see after this week when they play Maryland.
Yeah, after Maryland, and I think they play Iowa week 5. It's a noon kickoff next week.
Well, Iowa's got a
So
tough defense, so they
they
shouldn't be
do,
they shouldn't be putting up 55 points against Iowa.
but the problem with Iowa is they can't move the football,
Right.
and Michigan's got a decent defense. I know they lost their big time DEM. Was it last year? Trey Hendrick Hutchinson.
Yeah.
Hutchinson was a big part of their defense last year.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They're still down a little bit, but they're still a pretty solid defense. So that should be a fun game next week as well.
Well, all right, John. It's been fun. These are our 2 segments that we're going to try to do probably once a month or something like that. We did these a few weeks ago, and we'll probably try to do these pick 6 and no fly zone segments about once a month, and so we have some topics to go over and things.
Yeah, and we'll have our game day pick'ems tomorrow evening sometime, and we'll have that posted Friday. Just a little bonus. There's some interesting spreads this week.
There is.
Some spreads that I think should be higher, but that's just me. But we'll get to that when we get to it. So it's been fun.
We still haven't discussed if we're going to do a live on Saturday, so we might do a live Saturday sometime. You can check with us. If we do, we'll put one out for you guys to join and do a kind of a call-in recap show.
I might be on the road when that happens.
Yeah, John's going to the UK game, and it's a 7:00 kickoff, isn't it?
Yeah, so I'll probably be on the road.
Yeah.
Hey, I can do a road podcast.
All right, man. We'll see. We'll see after the games and see what time the game ends and stuff like that. But we might try to do a live after the games, late Saturday night. All right. So this is going to be our show, and we appreciate you joining us.